Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a story here for you today. Spider-Man 4 has been a topic of discussion, right? What is it going to be? Is it going to be another multiversal movie? Is it going to be a more grounded, a street level movie? There are those rumors that Sony wants to make, well, they want to capitalize off of the success of No Way Home, but, Marvel, on the other hand, wants to, take the opposite route and give Tom Holland like a proper Spider-Man movie where he's not like dealing with like larger than life threats, but it's just like a your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and whatnot. Um and I don't have any answers for that today, but uh we do know who's directing Tom Holland's next adventure. Well, we know who's in talks to direct. It's Destin Daniel Cretton. So Destin Daniel Cretton, he is the director of Shang-Chi, and he is in talks to direct Spider-Man 4. So let's go over this article from Deadline. Next Spider-Man movie at Sony and Marvel eyes Destin Daniel Cretton as director. So just to be clear, he's not like officially the director, but he seems to be who Marvel wants. The next installment in the Spider-Man franchise looks to be gaining momentum as sources tell Deadline that Destin Daniel Cretton is in early talks to direct the next installment in the franchise. It is unknown whether formal negotiations have begun, but insiders say he is the top choice to direct and is on board to take over the reins from John Watts for the anticipated sequel. Sony and Marvel had no comment. As for returning talent, deals for past stars like Tom Holland and Zendaya are not yet closed, but both A-listers have been in touch with execs and producers about the development of the film, and new deals for both will likely be underway soon. While there has been much speculation for who would take over for Watts, who helmed the last three picks, Deadline is hearing no real discussions had begun until further work had begun on the script. In recent weeks, progress had been made, leading to director meetings. While it is unknown who else met for the job, Marvel has had strong ties with Cretton going back to when he successfully directed Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings in 2021. Since then, he has landed an overall deal with Marvel while also helming episodes of the upcoming Wonder Man series. Plot details for this latest installment are known. Amy Pascal and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige are back as producers. Credit is repped by WME. So, basically, Deadline is saying that he is like the guy that Marvel wants. And when you read that a director or an actor is like in talks to like be a part of a project, what that usually means is that the studio wants them to do it and the guy wants to work on it with them. So I think it's fair for us to say that Destin Daniel Cretton wants to direct Spider-Man 4. I think that's fair to say. And I think that that's very interesting because the first thing that actually comes to my mind is, well, what does that mean about Shang-Chi 2? I mean, is that project canceled? Like, are they just not doing a Shang-Chi 2? I can't say I would be too surprised. I mean, the movie, it was successful and people enjoy it, but it wasn't like an overwhelming success. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were like, you know what, we kind of just want to focus on surefire hits right now, so we're not going to go, we don't necessarily want to roll the dice on another Shang-Chi. I can't say I would be surprised if they did that. It could also be the case that Marvel still wants to do Shang-Chi 2, but maybe Destin is either going to do Shang-Chi after Spider-Man, or maybe Spider-Man is actually farther down the line than we think and he'll do Shang-Chi before Spider-Man. I mean, that's also possible, although I just think that brings into question the fact that Shang-Chi was back in like 2020 or 2021. It's been a minute. And we haven't, and people have been like going like, hey, when are we going to see Shang-Chi again? When are we going to get the resolution to that after credit scene where he was talking to like Mark Ruffalo and Captain Marvel or whatever? Like, we need to see Shang-Chi again at some point. I mean, I think he'll for sure be in the Avengers movies, but I think we also just want another movie with him. So the idea of having to wait for him to make Spider-Man and then Shang-Chi, that seems weird to me. But I think what could also be the case is that maybe, and just maybe. And by the way, I think it would also be weird to delay Spider-Man for Shang-Chi. So in either way, it would be weird. So maybe Destin Daniel Cretton, he's going to direct Spider-Man 4, and maybe they'll just get somebody else to direct Shang-Chi. Because, like, I understand that, like, Shang-Chi is kind of his baby, but it's also, like, if you have the opportunity to direct Spider-Man, I mean, you're probably just going to you're probably going to choose Spider-Man over Shang-Chi. You know what I mean? Like, he simply is one of the most iconic characters of all time. So I also wouldn't be surprised if Destin Daniel Cretton is going to direct Spider-Man 4 and then they get somebody else in to direct Shang-Chi 2. I think that's a possibility as well. So, we'll see how that all plays out. But as far as do I think he's a good choice for Spider-Man, I think so. I mean, I liked Shang-Chi. I don't think it's the greatest, MCU movie. I think, like, I was really into it for, I would say, like, the first 2 acts. I will say, though, it kind of jumped the shark for me a little bit, or at the very least, I just found it to be a lot less engaging when you get into the 3rd act, and it just kind of turns into Dragon Ball Z, where it's, like, big CGI fight, or, like, rings. They're throwing rings around, and CGI Simu Liu is running on a dragon. It kind of lost me, but like I really loved actually like that bus fight scene. I thought that was sick as hell. Like basically when Shang-Chi is just a guy who's really good at kung fu, I actually found that to be like pretty engaging. I liked it. And I guess on that front, I do think that Destin Daniel Cretton would probably be able to fill like one of the pretty big holes that I think is a part of John Watts' like directing abilities, which is I just don't think that John Watts is very good at shooting action. Like, it is kind of sad in my opinion that like, I mean, you look at the entire John Watts trilogy, it never even felt like he was trying to like top the train scene in the Raimi Spider-Man movies. It never even felt like it was trying to like even top like like anything in like Spider-Man 3 where like you know that scene where he's like trying to like jump, or when he's like having to dive through the construction to catch Gwen Stacy, like it just never felt like John Watts was even trying to do anything on that level. You know what I mean? So I do think that John Watts is just a little bit of a sauceless director. I think that a lot of just the directing in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is just a little mediocre, and I want a Spider-Man movie with a distinct directorial style. I do want that, and I do think that at least as far as action is concerned, I do think that Destin could be an improvement on that. As far as story, I mean, again, Shang-Chi was good. I wasn't like super compelled by it. But even then, at the end of the day, I don't think he's not writing the script. So I think just as a director, I like him basically. And yeah, I mean, it really is going to be up to Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal to, come to an agreement on what they want the story to be. Me personally, I would rather them move away from the multiverse stuff. I'm personally getting sick of it. I want Tom Holland to just have his own movie where he's just Spider-Man, where he's not little kid, sucking up to Mr. Stark. Oh, Mr. Stark. Or in, Far From Home when he's like, oh, Mr. Fury. Oh, I'm a little kid. I'm Mr. Fury. Or in, No Way Home. Oh, Mr. Doctor Strange. You know what I mean? And, that's not to say that, like, that's not to say that he wasn't Spider-Man the entire time. I'm not necessarily saying that, or that, he doesn't have, his moments where he, like, obviously rises up to the occasion and is his own man. But, I want Tom Holland to have a Spider-Man movie where he's just Spider-Man and he's swinging around New York City and, he's dealing with problems and, you know what I mean? Like, I want that for Tom Holland, for his Spider-Man, because he just really hasn't gotten that opportunity yet. And I think it would suck if it's just another multiversal bullshit. Oh, look, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are jumping out of portals. But the other reality that we have to face is that at the end of the day, a Tom Holland street-level Spider-Man movie is not going to make nearly as much money as No Way Home. I mean, like I say everything that I said, but at the end of the day, I do just have to acknowledge that is the reality of the situation. And from a business perspective, I can understand wanting to bring them back, but I do think that at some point, however, and I know this seems silly to say because obviously it's a business and it's about making money, but I do think that at some point you know, for the sake of the franchise, like, while yes, there's short-term gains in making another multiversal movie, I think for the sake of the franchise, I think you do try to keep it fresh. You do try to keep Tom Holland interested. I think you try and do what's going to be the most compelling story for audiences that watch the movie. So I don't know. I still think at the end of the day, it's the right decision is to go for a street level movie, and I think at that, Destin Daniel Cretton would be able to excel. But I do think if you go too far into multiversal bullshit, while yes, you are going to get short term gains, I do think at the end of the day, it's not the right move. But anyways, let me know what you think about any and all of that in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.